Suba Kaskazini. Akifuatwa na Mheshimiwa wa Dagoretti Kusini. Endelea Mheshimiwa Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and also thank you for intimidating us with Kiswahili. There, Mr. Speaker, I have no clue what you have said, but I trust you have said good things. Having said so, Mr. Speaker, I just want to thank the mover for clarifying that this bill was...
Mheshimiwa wa Dagoretti Kusini anataka kukupasha habari. Umekubali?
Nimekubali.
Tueleze Mheshimiwa.
Mr. Speaker, it is just a point of information because the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, a very accomplished member of this House, says that she might not have understood what you said in Swahili. It would be important, Mr. Speaker, for me to even understand, because one of the requirements of any member to be in this House is a proficiency in English and in Kiswahili. And more importantly, for members who even came here earlier than us. And I remember when the elections of 2007 or 2013, when the Honorable Millie was coming to this House, that was the only requirement, even before the degrees requirement. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to establish whether the Honorable Millie Odhiambo was able to pass that test.
For your information, she has been here from the 10th Parliament non-stop. She first came into this Parliament as a nominated MP in the 10th Parliament, and she has been elected since, and she's still there.
Raising my concern even further, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Though that's not a point of information, that is seeking clarification. And I want to assure my brother that yes, I passed the proficiency test for Kiswahili of Kenya, not the Tanzanian one that the Speaker is talking. The Speaker has just spoken Tanzanian Kiswahili. The Kenyan one of Tafadhali Pata Chunga, that one I can manage, Mr. Speaker. But those conquans, Mr. Speaker, I cannot manage. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I just want to say I support and thank the mover for clarifying that this bill was before the House in the last Parliament because it was looking extremely familiar. And I discovered, Mr. Speaker, that I'd actually given a lot of input and even proposed amendments, and I've seen that some of my amendments were carried, and I'm very appreciative, even though the others that were not picked. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this bill, which is a Kenya National Library Services Bill, is very necessary. Post-2010, Mr. Speaker, library services have been devolved, and I want to agree with the members that are saying that the fact that it has been devolved does not mean that library should only be at the county levels. And Mr. Speaker, even at those county levels, we don't have libraries of a standard that would actually equalize what we'd be considering a library that should be in those counties. Mr. Speaker, in Homa Bay, for instance, there was a library that was promoted by Honorable Mama Ida Odinga, a very excellent library at Ogande Girls, and which is almost complete. And Mr. Speaker, I'd want to say that those are the kind of library standards that we would want in every county. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that we should then also devolve the libraries to our sub-county levels and even further. I have a program in my constituency called Dear Suba North, which is Drop Everything and Read Suba North, that promotes a culture of reading. And it's just that our CDF resources are less, but I'd hoped to even set up a mobile library using the boat that moves in the 7 islands of Suba North. We have 7 islands in Suba North that would move in the 7 islands to promote reading as a culture. I am an avid reader, but I'm also a writer, Mr. Speaker. I've only last week launched one of my books, Rigo Berigged. Currently, I'm concurrently writing 6 other books. I am a very passionate reader and writer. And Mr. Speaker, that is why, and the reason why I do this is because I know reading has actually enabled me to be who I am. I was lucky to have a mother who went to school at a time when women didn't go to school. And my mother encouraged a reading culture in our household. And because of that, most of us, even though she was a widow with 8 children, in fact, almost all of us went up to university, despite the fact that she was a widow, because she encouraged a reading culture in our lives. And I know that through digitization, which I actually proposed certain amendments in the earlier bill, through digitization, we can open up the world and get more information and get opportunities. Mr. Speaker, I'm actually trying to open my computer and my computer doesn't recognize me. Now this is the challenge of digitization. How can my own computer not recognize my finger? Oh, there. And not recognize my face. Mr. Speaker.
Mheshimiwa Gogo, Dr. Gogo, anataka kukupasha ujumbe. Uko tayari?
Mr. Speaker, only if they will compensate my time, or you'll compensate my time taken by KJ and Dr. Gogo, I don't mind being informed. That we are dealing with library services, which is about information. So I'm okay being informed,
okay.
Yes. And she's a PhD doctor, so she's learned.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. And I wanted to inform my sister not to forget her promise to donate books of Rig Obi to Rangwe constituency, which she just recently launched, and I wanted to celebrate her on that. But I wanted you to to inform you so that it goes on record that I'm able to follow you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, I will not only give the donate to Rangwe the book Rig Obi, but I will also donate the book Rough Silk by Deborah Tendo, an amazing book, and I want to thank Kenyans for having this culture of writing and telling stories and speaking the unspoken that people have never spoken about. And so I will donate to your constituency the books, and we can twin and do a competition and our Dear Suba North program, where we have a spelling bee competition to encourage that reading culture. We must make sure that our young people are not just experts in Ohangla. Mr. Speaker, I'm an excellent dancer, but when I was in my constituency recently with Honorable Joyce Bensouda, I told the young girls that life is not just about dancing, because there's a growing culture that young people now think the only thing that we can do is dance weekend to weekend. That dancing is basically to make us relax. But the primary thing is we must progress in other areas, including education. Mr. Speaker, I will be proposing amendments, which I know I proposed in the last session of Parliament. And I think because we are not too used to things that sound conk. Mr. Speaker, I had actually proposed a Kenya Resource Identification Numbers Agency. And for those of us who are published, you can tell, you know that we have such an agency that actually sets standards to administer international standard resource identification numbers for books, serials, magazines, music, and other resources. And the functions of the agency should be, amongst others, to provide a linkage between the national agency and other international resource number agencies for the purposes of the development of unique identification system for resource identification materials in Kenya, amongst other factors. Mr. Speaker, when I had actually made that proposal, the committee at that time thought it was too complex. But if you look, I wish I had a copy of my book here, I would have shown you that you will see a barcode that has a unique identifier number. And you cannot have that unless you actually have a system, and we have an agency that administers that in Kenya. And Mr. Speaker, it should be for whether music, books, and others. And so I will be proposing further amendments to this bill, but I want to thank the committee that they have taken the issue of digitization, which I had proposed in this era and time. We are moving, even now I'm selling my books and people are more, especially in diaspora, are more concerned about receiving the digital version. Of course, me as a compassionate reader, I have to get the physical version of books. I'm that old school, but we must provide that. I'm also happy that they've also provided for Braille, a version for persons with disabilities. I'm happy about that as well. And Mr. Speaker, in concluding, I just want to say that one of the things, because we are dealing with issues of abuse of girls, no distraction like the dancing that I was talking about. And one of the ways to keep our girls and young boys engaged is to promote this reading culture. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support this bill with proposed amendments.
Mheshimiwa wa Dagoretti Kusini akifuatwa na Mheshimiwa Kilgoris.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you. And I take this opportunity to first thank the committee led by the Honorable Wanyama for processing, and the committee members of this amazing committee for processing such a good bill for us to be debating. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to...
Yes, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo is on a point of order.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Honorable KJ, I don't know if it's KJ or Lillian, when one of them was raising the point of orders and they'd spoken to the issue of attending my lunch. Could I please just say, give my gratitude to the members of parliament who came for the lunch and supported. Members came overwhelmingly, and I just want to thank you. I don't take it for granted. And the office of the clerk, I just want to thank you.
Fair
for
enough.
the support.
It's not a point of order, but nonetheless, I think it's taken. It's taken with the dignity.
Mr. Speaker, I would also like to request that you protect my time.
Proceed, I'll protect you.
Thank you. And Mr. Speaker, I was thanking the committee under the leadership of Honorable Wanyama and the members of this committee for processing this bill that had come to us in the last parliament. Preliminarily also, Mr. Speaker, because we are talking about libraries and repositories of knowledge, Mr. Speaker, allow me to also congratulate